Hey, welcome back to Behind the Internet. And today we got another awesome show for you guys. We're going to be talking about mental health in the workplace and talking about working from home. And so if you're just joining us, hop on the comments. Let us know that you're there. And again, I'm Aaron. I'm one of the outside sales agents for Whisper Internet.
Hello, Aaron. Good to see you again. I am Jesse. I do field services for Whisper and do some towers. And again, once again, we have another great guest. We were kind of COVID focused. We've had a few of these shows. We're, like Aaron said, mental health, working from home, a lot of working from home going on lately. And this is Audrey Gonzales. Glad to have you today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're definitely always excited to have a guest on here and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I am the clinical director of the Shiloh office for Counselors Associates. I'm also one of the therapists, so I do still see clients, but I just help with some of the day-to-day direction. And obviously, I am hearing a lot about working from home and the mental health struggles related to that. So I was really excited to be asked to be a part of this.
That's awesome. And again, to our audience, if you didn't catch it, we're going to be talking about mental health in the workplace. Whether you are back in the office or never left the office or working from home, this is definitely going to be the show for you, which I bet most of us are already kind of doing right now. I know I kind of started working from home just shortly prior to kind of COVID. And I remember even before all this, it was even an adjustment for myself. And because I was so used to always going into the office, and then now I had to like kind of redo my routine a little bit and get things going. So, and again, in the comments, tell us how you're coping working from home, and Audrey, what are some of the struggles that you're commonly seeing right now?
Yeah, well, specific to working from home, definitely people being able to set boundaries. And this was an issue for a lot of people, I think, even before the pandemic, before they started working from home, but it's definitely elevated now. Being able to set boundaries of what's work time and what's not work time. So especially when you're working from your personal space, it's kind of hard for you to make that distinguish between what's work and what's home. And, that can be a little complicated sometimes. But also, the added complications of if your kids or your spouses or your roommates are home while you're working, or if one of you is back in the office and one of you is still working from home there for a while. I know personally, like our daycare was closed for a little bit. And so that was an adjustment. That's something I've heard from a lot of people. And now definitely with the schools in this area are all kind of doing something different. Like some of them are back hybrid and some of them, like the private schools, are doing all the kids back in school, and then some are choosing to do remote. And so there's a lot of different complications kind of coming up for different people.
Yes. And one of them I know I can relate to is like being in your space and trying to define when to stop working. And that seems to be because it's kind of like, going in the office, that 5 o'clock hour, that drive home, it kind of sets the mood like, I'm off work, I'm done with work. But now working from home, I catch myself, I'll wake up in the morning, start working early, and sometimes I go for like 12, 14 hours and it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm thinking, oh, hey, I can stop now. But
yeah. Well, if you think about it, how many people have like their Gmail app and it's connected to their phone, and it's so easy to get drawn in, like, oh, I'll just answer this real quick. And then somebody else replies and it just keeps going.
Yep. Then you got the email game that goes on till 11 o'clock at night. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can all relate to those.
Yeah, I have that problem even not working at home. It's with the way things are going lately. So, in my circumstances, nothing's really changed that much when it comes to, I haven't had to work from home. I can't really work from home what I do. So I'm in the office all the time. And there definitely are some, struggles with that. And then there's, some things that are nice about not having to change that. But, I do have, the family at home and the kids are at home. And I think it makes it hard when I'm away from them, knowing what's going on there and how they're doing school and stuff like that. So, right.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned boundaries a minute ago too, as well. How does some of the other family members, like you mentioned, kids being at home as well? How do you kind of get everybody on board with the boundaries as well?
Yeah, well, sometimes it might depend how old they are. I know I have a little over a 1-year-old at home, so she's not really going to understand the whole boundary thing. If she sees me, then like it's over. So I imagine there's lots of people who struggle with that as well. But definitely, if you can, having a totally separate space to work. Preferably not your bed. There is some suggestion and research out there that, our bed we associate with sleeping. And if we associate it with other things, then it can impact our sleep quality. As far as like wake ups or how well rested we feel when we wake up. I know when I was a teenager, that was my default. Like, I'll sit on my bed and do my homework. So I'm always cautioning my teens, especially now when they're doing school from home. I'm like, I know it's so tempting to sit in your bed and do your work, but like go sit at your desk, or, do you have somewhere else? Can you get a chair or something like that?
That's good to know. And I've heard that as well, is kind of a, pick an environment. And it almost goes along with like, back being in college again, you're always having to like work at home and like stay away from the TV or Xbox or, and just going back to, and, working in your bedroom and in bed, that's, especially that's hard to do anyway, because everything we do is video call. So kind of a good place to maybe pick your background as well.
No, that's good. I can imagine all the temptations of, there's a lot of things sometimes I'd rather be doing than working, and being at home would be a pretty big temptation. So to keep focused, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting though, because I've heard some people do actually feel more productive. And there's a lot of research out there to suggest that working from home can be more beneficial obviously in certain settings. Like, it wouldn't necessarily be my preference personally to do therapy forever and ever through a screen and not from an office. But for now, it's about keeping people safe. So we make do with what we have. And actually, it's amazing that we even have this technology to be able to do this. But, there are other people that are the opposite, where being at home, like you said, is so many distractions, whether it's your dog barking and wanting to go outside, or if your kids are there, do they want to go out and play because you're home and they don't understand that you're working? Or you're like, oh, I could just, fold this laundry or switch it over, and something else distracts you and you just kind of like keep doing things and take this long break from your work or whatever you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, Audrey, I'm glad you brought up the pets and dogs, because that would be my main challenge. Is my dog Sturgill would be in my kitchen, in my business, constantly wanting to play. So it'd be hard for me to shut him out, and he knows I'm home and we're not playing. So that'd be a big stress for me, knowing he's there, and I'd have to fight that temptation. Now, anybody watching right now, any questions at all, please ask. You can ask in the comments. We'll answer them live. And then if you're watching this after the fact and you have any questions, please ask then. We always get back to you with that. I'd like to switch gears to, working in the office. We got a ton of people working at home right now, and there's a ton of people still working in the office, and that will have some added levels of stress with COVID and regulations. What are some complaints that we're seeing right now with that?
Obviously, the number one is potentially being infected, and that being stressful for people in itself, especially depending on what their environment is. Some people work kind of in their own secluded place, so maybe that's less of a worry. But I've heard a lot of, coworkers not taking it seriously or not wearing their masks whenever they're around people, and that's stressing people out depending on their comfortability level. Hearing them talk about a great party they went to over the weekend, and that's stemming up some feelings. And even if they're not necessarily going to say anything to that person, it still can cause this inner turmoil that can come out in lots of other ways, whether it's building up that stress or, having irritability or upset feelings come out at a different person, like when you get home that day, or a different coworker that didn't have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But and then obviously as well, one of the big ones I've heard is this kind of connection of, okay, my coworker was around somebody this weekend that then they found out tested positive, and now I've been around that person, and that stress that comes along with that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that going on. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
No. Well, I think we sound like we're heading down the same road there. Is there anything that maybe employers, obviously, that can help out to maybe minimize some of that risk? I mean, obviously, we know the mandates and so forth, so on. But I mean, is there a way to kind of like maybe for the employers out there that's watching, to help them, relieve some of the stress for the employees with those concerns that you brought up?
Mm-hmm. As leadership, making an open door policy for if anyone is stressed or uncomfortable. And I'm going to tie in something a little different than this in here, but it is relevant. Just mental health in the workplace in general. Most people don't feel comfortable being able to go to their managers. And studies also show that managers don't feel comfortable handling mental health issues or concerns, whether it's stress or anxiety or depression, grief, so many different things, and all of those things are applying right now. So having that open door policy, brushing up on, how you would handle it, maybe even go to your superiors and say, if somebody comes to me and they're really upset about this, how do we want to handle it? Having policies and protocols. And you can't always plan for everything. And when something happens the first time, that's maybe when you're making your protocol. That leadership side, that's going to be probably the most beneficial. And also being flexible with people if they're really, really feeling uncomfortable. Is it possible for them to do part of their workday from home? Or, how beneficial are they going to be to the company to stay there if they're so worked up that this is all they're thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting because you were mentioning things that have nothing to do with COVID, just mental things before that leadership might not be necessarily comfortable talking about. But it sounds to me like just having a flexible leadership right now is key. And I know, I'll speak for Aaron, that we've had some really good flexible leadership with Whisper, thankfully. And, especially dealing with different states and different areas, how spread out we are. What I deal with here is completely different than what Aaron deals with where he's located. And then you've got the Illinois side where, our company's based out of is, completely different. So there's a lot of aspects that leadership has to deal with, and being flexible and being open-minded is a key, I think.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've just recently started getting more into and doing more research. It is near and dear to my heart. If you look on LinkedIn, it is like article after article about mental health in the workplace. It is a huge topic right now. And, these bigger organizations are talking about it, but I don't know that it's trickled down necessarily to actual practice, like putting it into practice. And so I'm hopeful that maybe we as a company, as mental health providers, especially at this office specifically, can help organizations, employers, leadership, whoever, figure out how to implement those things into their workplace. Because I get that it's hard to just pull that stuff out of nowhere if you don't have any background or knowledge about it. But mental health diagnoses or struggles specifically cost the US alone so much money. And putting money into taking care of this or putting things in place ahead of time saves the business so much money. And so I don't want to get on a tangent here, but like I said, it's something that I've recently noticed coming out, and I think it's important for us to talk about.
Yeah, I think those policies and procedures definitely would definitely be, and I can see where that would save money all the way around for sure too. And it probably gains a lot more trust between the employer and the employee as well. And in those situations, because we all have those stresses for sure. So.
Right. And Audrey kind of ended that saying, well, I didn't want to go off on a tangent because I had a couple questions that probably would have gotten us off on a tangent about. So how well do you feel like this mental health thing's being handled in the first place?
A loaded question.
Yeah,
Well, you guys are already doing so much just by having the three of us on to talk about this, because part of our job is talking about it and decreasing the stigma. And we've seen a little bit of the pendulum swing to the opposite direction. Like now for teenagers, maybe like it's cool to have a therapist, which I love, and it's amazing. And I'm so glad that they're so open, but making sure that we are there to help people with the things, and people can be able to be honest about what it is that they're actually struggling with, because that's hard. It's hard to step into a room and talk to a stranger about all of your stuff, no matter how deep or dark or light and airy it might be. And just the more we talk about it and the more we're open about it, the easier it's going to get. You never know where just one of these videos is going to make somebody think like, okay, I think I could do that too.
So do you think with COVID, whatever anybody thinks about it, where they, people think differently about it, do you feel like it's helped your industry kind of think about more things, or I'm not saying you feel more useful now, but what kind of things do you think has popped up in your industry because of it, of COVID and the pandemic?
Telehealth. Telehealth was kind of this abstract side thing that you had to go through this elaborate certification to be able to do as a mental health professional, at least. So that means more money, more time, things like that. And when this happened, we didn't really have a choice. And the insurance companies have been covering telehealth, which is a huge help for our clients, because that was kind of the biggest fear. Like, if people are losing their jobs, if they aren't sure if they're going to lose their jobs, are they going to still want to put this investment into themselves? Because for us, it's not any different than if you have a broken arm. You're not going to put off going to the doctor to get your cast on, hopefully, assuming that you have the privilege to not have to ignore that, of course. But you're going to go and take care of that and get that fixed and see a doctor. And that's really how we view mental health too.
Right. And telehealth, what is it? Zoom? What kind of platforms do you use for the? Do you use Teams, Zoom? There's Skype. There's a bunch of different ones. I'm just curious
so
about
many.
I'm curious how you do that.
We specifically use a platform called Doxy.me. It's completely HIPAA compliant, and there's a couple different ones out there. And I've seen, other therapists use different ones. We are technically allowed to use Zoom and things like that right now, but especially because we didn't know how long this was going to go on, and confidentiality is our first and foremost. So we were like, yep, from the get-go, let's get this HIPAA compliant platform put in place. Super easy to use. And, other than the typical technical difficulties that happen from time to time, it's been not as difficult as a transition as abstract the thought felt in my mind from the get-go.
Right. I'm glad you said telehealth, because I absolutely love just a regular doctor appointment, getting on a Zoom call or whatever platform they use. You're not driving there. It's probably faster for the doctor. It's quick. It's really convenient. It's super convenient, depending on what you're doing, of course. And I think, and I feel, and I'll ask you too, when COVID is over, and it's going to be over, is it going to keep going that way? Did we pull something really good out of what's going on right now?
Well, considering there were some clinicians that worked that way to begin with, and you have to think like there's things like BetterHelp, and I don't remember what the other popular one, Talkspace. It's, those kinds of things already exist. So there's already that out there. What we don't know is whether it's going to go back to, okay, you still have to go get that certification, or is it still going to be something we're allowed to use even without it? Is it still going to be covered by insurance companies, or will they have to pay for it out of pocket? And probably personal preference on the therapist end too. It is convenient, and it is nice to be able to reach clients in ways that I haven't always been able to. Like, if it's going to be too close of a call to get here in time after school for this one slot I have open. Well, now that commute is cut down.
Mm-hmm.
We could see people from much further away that don't have to drive an hour or whatever it is, which is definitely helpful. It's different though to not be in person. It's not the way that I was trained to do therapy, to be in person and be able to notice. It can be tiring at times. My eyeballs can get really tired. I definitely have to wear my glasses a lot because, yeah, I know. It's, if you're seeing like 7-8 people a day by the end, if I'm wearing my contacts only, I'm like, oh, it feels like they're going to melt out of my face.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a wait and see.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, wait. So how many times a day do you start talking and realize you're on mute?
So I've gotten a lot better about it now that I switched to, I got some headphones finally, because before, you think that it's so ridiculous. I literally just got them this month. That sounds so silly, but I just kept being like, well, there's no point because it's just going to keep going, or it's not going to go, like, we'll go back to the office. And then finally I was like, I can't anymore, because I was having to mute because of the feedback when I was talking or they were talking. So that doesn't happen quite as often anymore with the headphones. But before, it was like all the time, or my clients would be like, you're muted. I'm like, oh, my bad.
Then you got backtracking like, man, how did I put that? Okay.
You're like, man, I was on a really good point. I was going really good there for a minute. Now I got to redo it again.
I usually notice pretty quickly.
Right. And I know, I love these chats because a lot of times they're open-ended and we can go really far off the rails, but here we go even farther off the rails. Since we've been doing so much of this, I always remember, being a kid, sitting, when you're sitting real close to the TV and the parents are always like, oh, you're sitting too close to the TV, your eyes are going to go bad and blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure about that. As much screen time I've had over my life, I know I have some glasses now because I'm, 40 something, but I'm not sure how scientific that too close to the TV thing is. What do you think? Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, if you think about it, how many times are we like this?
Right. So, I don't know. Anyways, no, Aaron, any other questions that you can possibly think of?
No, I was kind of looking forward to the show because working from home, I know for me personally, it has been kind of a struggle. Like I mentioned, okay, it's time to stop working or keep going. And it's almost to the point Monday through Friday, I know without a doubt I'm working pretty much 12 to 14 hours. And a lot of times even on the weekends now. So because it's so easy, my office is all right there, everything. And of course I'm at a convention in Vegas right now, but so I'm not really working from home currently, but working from home has been a struggle. And I thought, this would be super easy. I do find myself a lot more productive. You mentioned there's been some studies on that some people are more productive, and it does help because a lot of times I'm a very social person anyway. So if I'm at the office around people, hey, how was your weekend?
Guilty.
Yeah. So it kind of, when I'm at home, I can really dive down into the emails, get them done right off the bat. And then it just kind of helps out a lot. So I do find myself more productive, but at the same time, it almost, there's no ending, it feels like sometimes.
Well, kind of what we were talking about in the very beginning, pick a time and set that as your time and physically close your laptop, go put it in the other room. If you even need to, take a break from your phone, I have to do that sometimes, like all electronics. At the end of the day, sometimes I have to just leave my phone, go play outside, go for a walk, go sit in the other room or, whatever. It's kind of like that equivalent of what you're talking about when you're driving home from work and you get that wind down. that same kind of idea, like disconnect for a little bit. And some of it's going to be willpower of like, don't go check it. But there's so many apps out there for screen time now, and picking up your phone, it'll check your pickups and it'll kind of like scold you a little bit if you do it too many times. So if that kind of thing is helpful for you, then you can.
I've used one of those apps before, and I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it monitored how many times I picked up my phone, and it was great when I was studying.
I think there's one called Moment. Is that it?
Right.
No, this one here, it was kind of cool because I remember it was like cool app. It was a little corny, but you're growing a tree, and the goal is to the tree grows all the way with a timer. So if you pick up your phone, you kill your tree basically. So that was a neat one as well.
Yeah, there are tons of apps out there. I remember we talked about another show, the Just Breathe one. The one when we were talking about the I think the Apple Watches. Yeah, Just Breathe it gives you alerts when you need to slow it down a little bit. And what we were just talking about just within the last couple of minutes is a great segue. We had we had an audience member ask, how to wind down after work. And I think you kind of just mentioned a couple things about, putting some things away. I've got some good ideas, but maybe for another show, but yeah.
I know that for me personally as well, like physically standing up, stretching, walking around, that helps a ton because I'm doing so much sitting. And although, yes, I'm a therapist, I sit in a chair to begin with, but it's different because I'm not getting up every 45, 50 minutes, an hour to go get a new person from the waiting room or to like go grab something from the other room. I'm literally just sitting and then typing, and then moving on to the next person and starting a new. So sometimes if I don't make myself, I'm just sitting there, and I've been sitting all day. And so I have to find something, and everybody's a little different, like whether it's yoga or if you like to exercise, go do a different kind of exercise, like working out, or if you like to, there's just like a certain feel good TV show that you like. I know we're talking about screens, but if it's something that not everybody, but a lot of people, if you like TV, you're TV junkie like me, you have certain things that you can just play in the background and it just like feels good. Like if you want to put Friends and just let it play through, like great, whatever. But just finding what works for you. What is relaxing? Do you have a certain scent of candle that you like? Do you like to take baths? Do you need to take a hot shower to kind of reset yourself? It can be so many different things.
Yeah, and I can see what you're talking about earlier. You're working from home from your chair and your workspace, and then you could easily just go straight to the couch. And I think you're kind of talking about a comatose type of lifestyle that you can get yourself into. So exercise, walking around, doing something active to wind down is a great tip for sure.
Yeah. And we had another question come in from an audience as well. This is a really good one. As a manager, how do you check in on your team's mental health, especially if they're all working remote or anything else like that? What's some tips for that?
If you have the type of setting where you can make it happen, where you can check in one-on-one, whether it's a phone call, meeting with them in person, or doing a video chat, even if it's just for 10, 15 minutes. Hey, how are you? How are things going? Is there anything that you need support on? How can I support you? And like I said earlier, having that open door policy, being able to be open to those conversations makes a big difference. And most people aren't going to necessarily feel like that's okay unless the manager opens the door first. Send out a message to the team as a whole, or reach out to everyone individually and say, hey, times are tough right now, and I understand if you have extra stress or anxiety or whatever, and I'm here to listen if you need that, and we can work on it together.
I know for things that we've done within Whisper that have been really great to me is, our HR department has done very well. 2 days a week, they do a virtual coffee that's usually 7:45 to 8 a.m. where everybody just gets on and they'll throw in a little contest in there. And it's kind of neat because you just kind of see everybody, kind of talking to everybody. Really, when things were like at the very beginning of COVID, we did a kind of like a 5 o'clock social hour every Friday. Yeah. And even our owner jumped on there. There's quite a few people on there, several other managers. And, it was just that nice, 15, 30 minutes. And us as a company, we have gotten like so many diverse areas. And it was kind of cool too, because it's like, oh, hey man, I haven't seen you in like 3 or 4 months, and we're still like that now, even in the same office situation. And so they've done a very great job. And so, I mean, other businesses are out there. I know we do one-on-ones with our employees as well, and we just take them out, and it's kind of like hey, let's just go chat, see how things are going.
Yeah, because some people are going to be scared to bring those things up. They're going to be afraid that they're going to be penalized in some way, or they're going to be looked down upon. But mental health days, being able to take those here and there can be really beneficial as well, and not have to necessarily explain yourself if you don't want to. But, being able to go to somebody if you want or need to is, I would imagine, a huge relief.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Looks like we have another question for you, Audrey, and we might have answered the second part of this, but looks like specifically the clients that you work with, how are they liking the virtual setup? Do you think they're following suit with it? And then the follow-up question is, will you keep doing this after COVID, which it sounds like, it's situational, face-to-face, and then sometimes there's some virtual things going on, but specifically the clients, have you noticed, are they taken to it well?
Everyone has been so flexible, which is great and amazing. And I can't thank anyone that comes in contact, whether it's with our office or a different therapy office, enough for just understanding that this is not ideal for any of us. And, we're just trying to prioritize safety. It's kind of a mixture. Some people would prefer to be face to face. Some people are like, this is great. I'd love to continue this because it's so convenient. Like I have people pulling over like when they're running errands and doing it from their car. And some people are doing it at home. But sometimes, for some people, it's hard to find that time where they feel like it can truly be confidential and calming. And, you mentioned my office, like, oh, earlier, like I would never leave that. And that's oftentimes how people feel. They comment on how calming the office can be. And that's just something that you may not necessarily get if you're doing telehealth. But definitely as far as continuing, kind of depends, personal preference of the therapist, and then also the insurance coverage, since most people are using insurance for their sessions.
Right on. No, thank you very much for all that. And those are great questions. We love when our watchers ask questions. And like I said before, even after the fact, if you are watching this video later, please answer questions. We will definitely get back to you. Even if we have to contact Audrey, we will find her and we'll ask her the question, and we'll get in there. So I don't know. We're about 30 minutes in. What do you think, Aaron? What else you got?
I don't have anything. The biggest thing is one of the cool things now I'm pretty excited about is don't forget to subscribe to us. I can put that word out. Subscribe.
Yep, you got it.
That's great. Subscribe, that word. To Behind the Internet on YouTube. Get on there, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. So give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, preferably thumbs up.
Nah, don't do the thumbs down. But anyways, no, we appreciate everybody watching and everybody behind the scenes to make this happen. Thank you so much, Audrey. Appreciate you coming in. That was great information, and maybe we can have you on for a future episode. We would absolutely love that. Sure. And that's it. We're usually this was a once a month thing. It seems like we're doing it twice a week now. So I love having these rapid fire sessions. So look forward to the next one. I'm not sure what the next one is. Do we know what the next one is?
We'll have to get back with you on that one because
like I said, they're pretty common. So again, thank you, Audrey, for joining us today. We look forward to talking to you again, and we will have another one of these soon. And if you have any questions, please post. So appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Audrey.